Good Saturday morning, I decided to take a wild ride, like a walk on the wild side, as the Motley Crue song says, and color my hair without the vinyl gloves because I did not feel like looking for them. Clearly, I am not much of a risk taker. Oh, and I got some. It's air dry clay, and it's so soft and it's so easy to work with. Like even arthritic people could work with it. Um, and when it dries, it feels like an eraser. It's like really weird. But what I think I'm going to do is make a replica of the Valentine that Gemma had made Sebastian when she was 13 or 14, and that when he found on the floor after she filed for divorce and left, that he was when he finally just completely broke down and had to be Baker acted. Talked about this before. Anyway, stuff like this is so silly, but it makes me so happy. Give me something to do with my mind. So, the thing yesterday with all the computer failures, Microsoft 365 is just a taste of what would happen, a minor taste of what would happen if the grid fell. Society would completely collapse because we can't do anything without computers, nothing. Some of us can. There are people that have learned to do things the old school way, and like they don't use computers, but the majority of us, to some degree or another, cannot function without computers. Some to the point where I put myself in the primogenial and I named myself Judith, and I was sitting at a table at Alfred's Cafe talking about people with apps that tell them when to get up and walk and go get a glass of water. Like, that's extreme to me. I can just know by how my body feels that I need to get up and walk, and how my throat feels that I need to get some water. I drink water all day anyway. I don't just drink beer all day long. I just drink them for the purpose of these videos because Legion of Space Dust is really good. But I was thinking about, while these computers, IT is scrambling rapidly to get us up and running, even at the court, where some of the computer functions were, some of them didn't. We were able to get through the day. But I was thinking about how would each of my main characters handle the grid failure if they all three lived through it when it initially collapsed and society initially collapsed. Because Serena and they call her Morlock didn't live through the grid failure. She came to the aftermath when she traveled through time 219 years into the future. It had never been built, at least as far as the United States, had never been built up to where it was before. In fact, it was more, like I've said before, Little House on the Prairie. um, but what's of Serena's skills would she have been able to enact in the initial grid failure? Well, that's easy for her because she wasn't an outdoor person, but she loved watch The Walking Dead, and she studied like survival techniques because she was just kind of like cosplaying the zombie apocalypse, having to build bug out bags and things like that. Even though she never thought she'd ever be putting it in practice. But let's just say, like I said, I think in a video before, if Mount Rainier collapsed, or if Mount Rainier blew, sorry, we would be stranded for a couple of months before the government could get to us. So you've really got to have your emergency supply kit. So James and I have that. So Serena would have been able to enact her survivalists as all like in the wilderness, building shelters, building underground fire pits, like, and she would even know how to brew beer primitively because she studied that as well. So that's the way she could have contributed to a community that were trying to survive. Now Troy was street smart. Remember, Troy from the Primogenial. Troy had been exploited by her mother to be the little superstar, putting her in child acting auditions, beauty pageants, and primarily a figure skate. And Troy just never was quite good enough to like make a medal to make her mother happy. So she skated way too long. She was like 29 years old when she did her final skate, and she did a bad landing, broke her foot, went to the bone surgeon, who gave her the highest, what's the Oxycontin, whatever the highest level of, like, way too much of a hardcore narcotic, that she got addicted to that. And then when she finally got shut out of being able to get any more pain pills is when she went to the streets and started using heroin. So she was an addict for a significant amount of time. Troy was street smart because she had to figure out a way to get her next fix. So she is very street smart. So how she could contribute if the grid fell is to get people away, escape kidnapping, escape torture and murder. Because there are going to be people that are already abusive, but they're very covert, that are going to snap when the grid falls, that they're just going to go full on Jeffrey Dahmer, full on Ted Bundy, full on BTK. And it's going to be in numerous men, primarily, 99%. Numerous men, not just a few, numerous, are going to lose it. And they're going to say, hell, the world's going to shit anyway. We might as well just go around raping all these women. She would be able to escape that. And her little group that she picked out to escape that and keep them safe from that. You know, she'd know how to build traps. She'd know how to escape traps. She's the person that came up with this whole escape plan when she knew the government was ultimately going to come after her family, at which they did. To one of the guys that come in to kidnap them and failed, sat down and just started filing these nails, and people are like, let's go look for them. They're gone. How do you know they're gone? How do you know they're not hiding in this house? They're gone. Because she's too smart to them to be hiding in this house. She figured out an escape plan a long time ago, and they have enacted it. And he's actually very impressed by it. It's like, I don't know why this agency, whoever this like deep state agency these guys work for, why didn't they just hire somebody to go unalive her with the pew-pew? Because drive-by shootings and things like that happen all the time. Unalive her by pew-pew in front of the grocery store. Nobody would think anything about it for more than a day. And then Beru and Ian would have been sitting ducks. Even though Ian has the capability, physically, of destroying an entire oak bookshelf just by shoving it, he doesn't have the mental ability. And Ian was an innocent person until something happened in the book that it just destroyed his worldview. I mean, he knew the world was bad, but what he saw that made him take a downturn. Like, it broke him as a person, and he was never the same. He was very innocent, and he wouldn't have been able to get away from these guys and their high-tech weapons. And the Beru was a little kid. So the guy at the deep state agency was literally impressed by Troy. And he said, I told you it wouldn't work. Kept saying it. Nobody wanted to believe me. Now let's get to Harlow. So Serena was neglected. Troy was exploited. Harlow was abandoned after her husband, by contract only, died. Abandoned by her completely everyone in her community except for a couple of people. Harlow is she gets your attention by the way she looks, which I can picture the way she looks in my mind, and it's really hard to describe on paper. So I just said that people say she looks peculiar, but she has this unusual, mainly what's unusual about her is she's got true blonde white hair. Most people that have hair that color, it ain't that color naturally. Hers is natural. And her eyes are super, super light blue, except she also has vitiligo. So it's almost like her eyes are colorless, even though they're kind of colored. And kind of look at her and say, "What color are your eyes? I don't think they're blue. Yeah, they're blue. No, they're not." People would like to argue with her about her own eye color. It's like, obviously she knows her own eye color. But she has a very commanding presence outside of that. And she's able to, she's like the preacher on the mountain, right? But she's not preaching. She's just putting this very powerful, she's a very powerful, commanding speaker. Like she's like the version of Ronald Reagan, only she's not an evil, diabolical person like Ronald Reagan. She's actually the opposite. So I think her talent would be to call the masses to do things for the good. So I think she could build a community and convince people to straggle into the community to actually contribute to it and build it up to be something safe and good that they all could live in. So those are the three main characters, the three ways they would contribute to the zombie apocalypse. Tomorrow I'm going to a Rainiers game. I've got a really big hat with a big bill that I'm going to use for sunscreen, and then I'm going to wear a long sleeve shirt, even though it's going to be hot, because I don't want to get sunburned. Everybody have a good day.